Hello YouTube, this is Seasons here, and today I'm going to try to give you some advice on how to not tilt, or at least reduce the amount that you do tilt in your games. First off, tilting sucks. Okay, everyone's had those games where they just feel like they're completely underperforming, they're doing everything wrong that they normally wouldn't do, they're just doing stupid mistakes all over the place. Shit happens, but the good thing is it's preventable because most of that is going on in your head. And as long as you have a clear head and you're not really irritated or agitated, it should be significantly easier to perform at your normal level. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is music choice. While I'm sure that both of us don't have the exact same taste in music, I bet we can agree that some music hypes us up and other music calms us down. So this is a very important point because if you're listening to music that's supposed to hype you up, but you're just getting wrecked in your games, you're very likely to get more irritated than you normally would. I mean, you're just sitting there, you're listening to your hype music, getting ready to win all your promos, win a bajillion games, go straight up to Challenger, but your games are falling flat on their faces, and it's just a depressing feeling, and you just feel like crap. So if you feel like that's starting to happen, try to switch to something that's more calming, because while I'm not saying it'll completely prevent you from tilting, it should at least delay the process, because you're not going to be as excited and have as high expectations as before. Secondly, if you have a lousy game, don't be afraid to take a break. Even though it's really tempting to just immediately re-queue in order to try to get back those points you lost as quickly as possible, oftentimes it's better to wait a couple minutes before queuing again. Seriously, those few minutes that you use to take a break might be the difference between you winning your next game and losing your next game. Here's two reasons why. First off, if you take a break, chances are you're going to be calmer by the time you queue up again, and you're going to be over that last game's fiasco. Second off, all those bad players that you had on your team last time, you probably won't get them again because they're going to be in queue for another game and they're already going to be in Champ Select or in-game by the time you return to play yours. Third, try not to pay too much attention to people if they're performing really poorly, because as irritating as it may be for your teammates to be feeding profusely before 10 minutes, you really shouldn't be letting it affect how you play. In fact, terrible teammates just give you even more of a reason to not get mad, because if you start getting mad, then you're more likely to make mistakes, and if you are making more mistakes and you are performing poorly yourself, nobody's going to keep the team afloat because everyone's doing really badly. So regardless of how poorly your teammates are performing, you should never allow their performance to determine how well you perform, because the only one who should be determining how well you play should be yourself, not your teammates. Fourth, try not to take comments too personally. Some people just get really frustrated with the way that their ranked games are going. Maybe they're on like a 10-game loss streak, so they're getting especially annoyed, and you just happen to be there when they're venting. So if somebody's going to start raging, then just feel free to mute them so you don't have to listen to it. That way they can vent freely, they can think that you're listening even though you're really not, and you're going to be blissfully ignorant, so everybody wins. But the absolute worst thing you can do is argue with a rager or flamer, or a troll, because that's just going to make them talk even more, and then you're just going to get into a fight with them. You're going to both be keyboard warriors, swinging your keyboards around, trying to whack each other with words over the internet, and it's not going to be good for your team at all. So at most, try to just leave 1 or 2 messages or something, trying to ask them to stop, and if they're not planning on stopping, then just go ahead and mute them and just ignore them for the rest of the game and report them afterwards. And if there happens to be some unlucky victim of this rager, then try to make the victim feel better, because you really don't want them tilting even harder than they already probably are. Now, while we're on the topic of ragers and flamers, make sure that you yourself are not one. Personally, I very, very rarely rage. In fact, I rarely type anything at all. But if you really feel the need to call out people on bad plays, try to do it in as few words as humanly possible while expressing a complete and valid point. For example, instead of saying something like, "Oh my god, this jungler is so dumb, he went in when we weren't even grouped, that was 5v4, what were you thinking?" You can say something along the lines of, "Bad engage, we weren't grouped." Now, while both of these messages blame the jungler for the engage, the second way is a way to blame the guy without actually singling him out. This will make him not feel as defensive or like he's getting attacked, which will make it a lot less likely for him to actually start arguing back with you. Lastly, if you enter every single game with the sole focus of winning, you might want to change your mindset, because honestly, you're not going to win every single game. And if you're going in with your one objective of victory and it doesn't happen, you're going to be more annoyed than you normally would be. So instead of focusing on winning, you should focus on, for example, improving. For every single game, it doesn't matter if you win or if you lose. The important thing is whether you think you learned something. This mindset helps out a lot because even if you manage to lose a game, you still win in a way if you learn something. Because even though you might have lost the game, you still gained knowledge. So your objective to improve, it was still fulfilled, so it doesn't really matter that you lost. On top of that, you can use what you learned to improve, and if you're improving, you're going to be better at the game. And if you're better at the game, you're going to wind up winning more in the future. So at the end of the day, by changing your mindset from winning to improving, you're going to wind up winning more consistently in the future, and you're not going to be as irritated when you wind up losing games. So there you have it. This is my first informational YouTube video. I hoped that you learned something if you actually wound up watching it the whole way through. If you didn't, then I apologize. But other than that, if you did enjoy it, I would appreciate it if you would leave a like or a comment about something that you might want to see in the future, some other content that you might want me to create. And if you didn't like it, you should still leave a comment telling me about how great the video is, and you should still give me a thumbs up, so that way I can look like an idiot in the future as well, and you'll have more things to laugh about later. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time.